Right, Justin, hopefully this looks okay. Big cheesy grins. Let's do this.
Welcome to FRIllustrations, I'm Fraz. Today we're going to be doing a colouring tutorial on this piece created from the Old Artist Challenge a few weeks back. In this tutorial I'm going to be using alcohol-based markers, specifically Spectrum Noir Illustrator range. I love these markers, I use them all the time, and you'll see hopefully a really nice finish at the end. But away we go, and we are well underway creating a demo with some greys. We're using some light greys with some darker greys to create a kind of metallic feel. We also try to leave some white space for the reflection, but failing that, you can always use a whiteout pen to really make areas shine. We're moving on to Psy now. With Psy, I'm laying down the base colour of linen, just to get that kind of skin tone down. And then what I'll do is I'll use a darker brown, probably a natural brown, around the shadowed areas, and then I use a mid-tone, which is probably an apricot, to really sort of render the process and bring it all in together. Some of the things I will take into consideration while creating this piece is thinking about where the light source is coming from. So where are those cast shadows gonna appear? Whereabouts is the form shadow gonna taper off and go lighter? And just general things like that I'm going to take into consideration on each one of these characters and the scenery. But that is Psy pretty much coming to an end, and we're going to then move on to my character. We're going to start with a blue hat. I don't know why it always seems to be blue, but hey ho. So then we're moving on to, again, we get some of the skin tones. We're adding in some of that brown just to get that shadow caused by the rim of the hat. We're chucking in some greys as the clothing is shadowed by the actual cape or poncho. The poncho itself, I'm using a variety of different grey greens to really bring in that shadowing again, especially having all the folds in the fabric, really utilising that darker area. And then using some yellows, some golds, and some browns to make the gauntlet pop and have a sense of shine to it. And then we're moving on to Ace, where we're chuck some fruit pinks, some poppies, and some dark ruby down to get that rendering process done for his gauntlets and his boots. I'm going to use some ice greys on the rest of his uniform just to really make those reds pop. But again, I'm using some ice greys, I think 2, 6 and 10, to really play with that shadowing. So the lighter area would be the ice grey 2, and then we'll render it down from 6 down to 10 to really make that rendering process complete. We're then going to move into the statue in the background of Dan. I'm going to lay down a brown grey to cover the whole character. So I'm using a brown grey 2 to get that flats down. I'm then going to get a brown grey 4 and a brown grey 6 to really bring in that shadow in. So as you can see, we've got that cross-hatching line already showing a significant amount of shadow cast over him by the cliffs near the actual statue itself. So we're going to use the brown grey 6 to lay down those really dark areas underneath the chin, any lips and folds where we might see some of the real cast shadow, and then once I've laid down those real dark areas, I will then start to think about using some mid-tones, some brown grey 4s to create that form shadow. So we've got the light, the grey brown 2 that goes from that into grey brown 4 to grey brown 6, rendered nicely by just blending the colours together to really create a sense of shadow and depth. But as you can see now, like I mentioned earlier, we've created that cast shadow created by the cliffs, and I will slightly render them just to taper it off, and then I will start picking those areas where I know the sunlight is not hitting, and we'll render that until it gets lighter into the light source. Now we've got the joy of colouring this gigantic area. And as you can see, we're laying down a significant amount of colour. What can happen with these pens, especially when they start to run out, is it gets very streaky, and you might be able to see that right now. But that's okay, because you can go over with these pens to try and blend it in better, or you can even add some darker tones. Like you can see, we've got some cross hatching in these areas that we're colouring now, that we can basically render with a darker tone, so it can blend it all together, and we get rid of those nasty looking streaks. So yeah, all we're going to do is continue working until it's all covered, and then we can start playing around with the other colours and rendering it. Shameless little plug here. Here we go. Here's some of the pieces that I have created using the Spectrum Noir markers. Like I said, I really enjoy these pens, and I feel like I've really been able to create some pretty cool pieces. But tell me what you think, guys. Would you like to see some more tutorials using these, where we go a lot more in depth? I mean, this is a very, very cartoony picture we're working on at the moment, but hopefully you can get the gist. So you can see we've added that shadow elements in with those, I think, golden kind of browns, and then we're also laying down the cliff face now. We've laid down the flats, and we're just putting down the shadow in now. Now that we know that the light source is coming kind of from behind that cliff face, we can really darken up the front face of it that's going to be hidden, and we can render it slightly where as it comes to the top with some lighter colours, just so it brings it in. I weren't particularly happy with what I've done here with the buildings. I wish I went with a different colour, but it's a bit late now, and I won't even tell you what I've done with the sky, because that was a complete failure.
There we go, guys. There is a tutorial on alcohol-based markers. I hope you've learned something from that. Unfortunately, I did make a blunder, and I destroyed the sky. So if you do want to see me redeem this and try and complete this somehow, put in a comment, and I will do my best to save this. But there we go. That is the tutorial over and done with. I hope it's been useful. If there are any more tutorials that you would like to see, then again, drop them in the comments. Chuck in a subscribe and a like button. That would be greatly appreciated. And have a brilliant day. Geek out.